Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to share with you some ideas on how to build resilience and inclusion for the mining sector in Latin America. First, I think a bit of a disclaimer about Latin America. When I speak about Latin America, I have to be careful because it's a world in itself and it's very diverse. The countries have different realities. And it's very asymmetric in terms of capacity, territory, and GDP and other parameters. So this is important to understand. It's a very extensive region, but all the countries share great natural resources, water availability, agricultural land, and historically are rich in minerals. This is something that has been lately playing out very importantly since the energy transition began. The other point that I must raise is that democracies and institutions are not as strong as we would like them to be in the region. So you often go from different places of weak instability or instability and weak institutions in terms of policies and institutions that guide the development in the countries. So when this trend and when we acknowledge the energy transition that was going on in the worldwide, the region took a time to develop the response. I would say was more reactive, but lately, the last 3-4 years have been really important determining the path for the region, especially the capacities and the potential of the region. It's important, sorry. Oh. So the energy transition is showing geopolitical competition and is driving unprecedented capital flows to the region. This is a new situation, I would say, for the region, which is organizing its capacities. The region also has a great potential, holds 40% of global copper output and around 68% of the world lithium reserves in the lithium triangle, compounded by Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia. Recently, Bolivia recovering the institutional interest and capacity to exploit and develop lithium industry in Bolivia. And Latin America captures, as some will know, the largest market value for mine output globally, above 120 billion, believed for 2030. So this is the situation in Latin America. Great expectancy on how the energy transition will guide the development of the different countries. Most of the countries, especially in South America, are rich in minerals, in different minerals, copper, gold, lithium, and organizing the economies, attracting investment, and being part of this energy transition, which of course has some challenges as well. And I was mentioning or naming resilience as a main word in the presentation, because I think the region is showing resilience in terms of what is aiming to do and how development minerals, the critical minerals industry is proposing for the region. The strategic position of Latin America in the global mining industry is very beneficial right now. Main M&As in global share are in the region, happening in the region, projected investment above 230 billion by 2033. And the almost short supply is driving the investment in copper and lithium in the region. So the resources, we acknowledge the resources the world needs for its energy transition are concentrated greatly in Latin America. The strategic question for the region in many countries like mine is not whether to mine or not to mine. is the how. And that is a very, very fundamental question that the different countries are trying to respond. What kind of institutions and laws are required, and how to explain to the societies that this is, besides Peru and Chile that have been dedicated their development the last 25, 30 years, and Chile more, to develop upon the mining industry. The rest of the countries are somehow new to intense developing of a mining industry, and require to review the capacities in terms of institutions and laws. How to treat investment is very important. Also, how to understand the role of mining industry in the economic and social contributions that are bringing jobs to the communities, that are not only posing threats to the environment, as many believe, which is happening, especially with illegal mining in vast Amazonian territories, but how to use the momentum to help develop this conservation side, or I would say biodiversity conservation potential for the industry, um, in driving innovation. The, we see many initiatives being developed greatly, especially renewable electricity, renewable power taking place in many cases. In Brazil, 100%, like Vale's renewable electricity. But other countries are thinking right now how to use the mining industry development to increase the use of renewable electricity. So this innovation aspect is also happening, and it's driving great innovation. The other aspect in terms of social contributions is the ILO Convention 169, that has become a central piece of the discussion on how to address communities. The free prior informed consent that is required from communities, especially Aboriginal communities, and the new Escazú Agreement, which is a sister or convention to Aarhus Convention, which is based on or promoting public participation within vast territories when these projects take place, especially energy, oil, and in particular mining projects. So this is becoming an important part of how the mining industry is being assessed in our countries. How are we implementing these conventions is becoming the critical, I would say, door to the projects in the territories. Most of the countries in Latin America are part of large multilateral, I would say, important conventions, multilateral agreements. They're signed by most countries, not only biodiversity convention, which is, I would say, driving an important institutional capacity in our countries. Many countries in the region are mega diverse countries, which means that we have more biodiversity than others around the Amazonian area, Mexico as well, and some Central American countries. So how do we address mining relates greatly to how to implement multilateral agreements, especially environmental multilateral agreements. So this is also important in the way that the industry is being, especially responsible mining, is willing to present itself. Also, the role of community development and how the mining industry is bringing some potential to build infrastructure, to help with education in different rural areas that are remote, is being discussed and largely analyzed as a great positive impact. How to keep the social license to operate is been part of the discussion lately. And as it's been lately discussed, it's a great issue. It's being treated now as a geological risk or a legal risk or financial risk, how to keep the social license, which is not a permit, is not something that that we follow and check out, but is how to convince, to keep convincing a community that the mining industry and a project is bringing value to the community. So this is becoming challenging. It's always been challenging. I would say more now that there is great pressure on mining projects. So companies are now treating social risk as comparable to geological risk, and social license failures can quickly shut down billion-dollar operations. We saw that in Cobre Panama, and that was the first time, not the first time a project was shut down in Latin America or in South America, but the first time we saw a project that was in operation, bringing financial value to the government being shut down, which was a great, I would say, change in conversation on how the communities are feeling about mining. And of course, after that and before that, many rulings, many legal actions against mining that have ended in rulings ordering shutdowns or stoppage of projects until some conditions are met or indefinitely. So this is important because we combine the economic and social contribution with the risk and the environmental perception on how a project could bring could create impacts or higher or negative impacts to a region. And this is where the mining industry is navigating in Latin America at these moments. On the inclusion side, there is great progress. We see increasing the participation of women in mining across the region. Around 10 to 16 percent of the payroll is women. Chile has a higher than 20%, Ecuador 19, but it varies. But we see increasing. So inclusion has been developing lately in the industry, in the responsible mining industry. And I have to make this difference because there is also an increase in illegal mining in the territories in Latin America. Female representation in Chile, for instance, has grown, as I was mentioning, BHP, showing pride, 40% of their payroll is women. And it's important to make a note, when the companies include women, many good things happen. One of those is a lower injury rate in gender balanced crews, around 67%. And in terms of returns, and it higher rate, 38 compared to 32, all male gender boards in many companies. So we see that there is an acknowledgement on how including women in the industry is bringing benefits. So we see this, but we cannot yet produce or create legal frameworks that benefit female participation, which is something that is the interest is growing because the industry is going through a period. In one hand, the expectation for the energy transition that is bringing investment in copper, in lithium into the region, but as well, the last 5, 6, 7 years, an anti-mining sentiment that has been creating problems in many projects in South America, especially in Central America as well. And this has to do with some environmental and historic damage and legacy mine sites, and a bad probably legacy in terms of oil exploitation in the Amazon, as in my country or other countries. In Brazil, accidents as that took place, like Mariana and others, they have I would say caused a problem with the perception of the security of the operations, and this is something that slowly created some anti-mining sentiment in many communities, which has made it difficult to start the projects. Absence of meaningful prior community consultation is something that is being perceived as a failure, and communities create or resent having projects that are not making them part of it. Perceived inequity in benefit sharing agreements, how they understand or how communities see the different benefits and balances in terms of returns for the company that is investing and the government, the taxes, and what the communities actually get from a project is also in the conversation. And illegal mining happening in the Amazon countries. And I would say also an anti-capitalistic radicalism that has been growing the last years. So all this is the negative feelings that the mining industry is fighting in the region. So it's important to make a note on this, because it in one hand is great potential. We see great potential with the development and investment in critical minerals, but also the challenges are important. So to combat that, to combat this perception, negative perception, and anti-mining sentiment, it's important to discuss the standards, and that's the conversation that is happening in the region. So FPIC consultations and public consultations is a minimum for any project. Transparency in benefit sharing, transparency in terms of taxes, EITI is standard, for instance, being promoted by the government and by the companies as well. Independent environmental monitoring that can engage with communities and make them part of the monitoring is also critical. Promoting ESG standards, IFC standards 5 and 6 are critical, and others like mitigation hierarchy, standards for biodiversity, which is important that they take place in very early on as in exploration, and of course the battling with illegal mining in many concessions in the region. This is the context of the industry, but the conversation in the last, I would say, 2 years regarding how to fight these causes that create anti-mining sentiment is being developed, and I'm very optimistic of the resilience of the industry in the region and how the perception is changing. The Cobre Panama case identified, I think, and it rang an alarm on how perception, or a negative perception that is building up and is not being addressed, neither by the government nor by the company, creates a huge negative response that can shut down a huge operation that, in the case of Panama, was responsible for 5% of the GDP. So how can a project that is responsible for the 5% of the GDP, it can be shut down? Is an important question. What are those causes? Why we need to work on standards and also on perception, communicating, and creating the conditions so the society in the region trust the mining industry standards. I'm not going to talk much about the political side, but I'm researching on the political economy of sustainable development with the case in the case of mining in the region, especially in my country, and how that was molded the last decades. But it's important in a positive note to talk about the local investment and the rural development that is happening and how communities are changing. In the case of Ecuador, there is only one province that has two mines in development. One is copper, one is gold, one Canadian, one Chinese. And it's important to take note of this case. This province has moved from the 20th place in terms of paying taxes to the 4th place. and increase the GDP, the province GDP, by 15 times. So this is just a small example of what can be brought by responsible mining in countries, in small countries, and in the region. So policy frameworks are needed, rural entrepreneurship. That is the case in the province of Zamora, which I'm referring to now. The company that organized to supply for one of the companies, one of the projects is now the fourth taxpayer in the province. So value chain creation is important and is one of the byproducts that are critical in the rural development related to the mining operation. The other important piece of information on how this is a great idea is the mining industry can bring a great potential is the biodiversity offsets and the ecological restoration that is happening in mining projects. For many countries, it's really hard to keep up with restoration or with conservation areas. So mining projects, responsible mining projects, they do have an opportunity to contribute to ecological restoration by incorporating biodiversity offsets. In some countries, Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru, this is being required, even now in Ecuador. It's not a mandatory requirement, but countries do it to show additionality and part of the environmental management plan. This is very important. This is something that creates trust, but also develops the capacity of the local communities to engage in restoration, be part of the conservation initiatives, and will help. And in some countries, it's now already helping biodiversity credits development, and the disclosure of initiative is being reported. So this is one of the, I would say, this is one of the pluses that the mining industry has created and needs to continue creating to combat that negative feeling or the anti-mining sentiment that has grown in the last years for many reasons, as I discussed. But this is the type of trend that we need to insist to develop. Investment to the countries is what is creating right now a healthy competition among countries, trying to bring investment to the region, and this is opening up or inviting newcomers like Argentina, for instance, and all the countries that are attracting great amounts of foreign direct investment. For especially lithium and copper projects, with great joint ventures with majors in most of the cases. So we can predict that the region is positioning itself as a region that is trying to take advantage of what the world is requiring in terms of the energy transition, and will be positioning as I would say a top provider. It's already in the case of Chile and copper, but the other countries are trying to catch up. Brazil as well, with a great, huge potential, and other countries, Peru, Argentina, and even Ecuador and Colombia that are coming behind, and now Bolivia that is going back to the market. It was impressive to see Bolivia back in PDC with projects ready just few weeks or months after a new president-elect. So every country that has potential is aligning with this initiative to become a great supplier for the energy transition. Looking ahead is important for the region to keep in mind a few lessons. The region is a resilient region, and the sector, the mining industry, is a very strong and resilient industry. The key part of the conversation is how to create strong institutions that favor foreign direct investment. This has been very irregular among countries, that it has varied through different governments. So that type of vision is required to keep steady flow of investment coming to develop the industry. How the rule of law is a core value for this. The region, especially some countries, have a track record in an arbitration process with other with investors. So how to create stronger institutions that respect the rule of law, how to work for stronger regulators, dependencies or ministries or secretaries that have good regulations, and that can help assess properly the impacts of these projects and how to develop them, and keep the timeline in place. Lately, the timeline for mining project in the region goes to 1 year to 2, 3, 4 years, which is something that wears out the interest of investors. So to work on regulations, to adopt more transparency standards like the EITI, it's definitely something that will create possibilities, and it's being worked now, supported by the World Bank in the region, to keep implementing social and environmental standards like the IFC standards and others that are coming to create opportunities, social opportunities and environmental opportunities as well. And the local investment to increase social returns is mandatory. Those are mandatory because the communities need to know that they have an opportunity engaging with mining projects. This is not minor. In the case of Ecuador, we have a regulation that 60% of the royalties paid by any project must go back to the local communities. And of course, we just have 2 projects, but this is something that we think will make the local communities and rural communities understand the value of developing mining projects nearby, and of course engage in being part of the value chain, creating capacities, and in terms of women and the inclusion and allowing women to take part of this. Women are organizers, community organizers, and the value of having not only in decision-making positions or in technical positions in projects, but also with the community. The role of women is beneficial to keep up with these social returns, to keep up with the consultation, and of course with the social license that, as I was mentioned, is critical for the projects. So the Latin American, especially South American countries, are strongly betting on critical minerals right now. But we need to create, I would say, wider conscious of what needs to be done. Stronger institutions, better regulations, transparency, investing in social and environmental standards, and including more women in the value chain and in projects. Will create stronger possibilities for the region to take advantage of the energy transition supplying minerals worldwide.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Maria. My mind is blown by some of those statistics that you shared, especially with regards to the gender balanced crews, and the impact that has on safety. That's amazing.
Yep, this is something that has been known by instinct, but now it's been measured. And this is important. Even the discussion on a board, the discussion that takes place in a board changes completely. I have been the only woman in boards, and I can say that when a woman takes place, the leadership takes place, the conversation changes. All male boards tend to be monothematic. It's a structure. But when there is a woman there, it's quite disruptive, with different questions, with different approaches on communities, on environment. and that creates awareness. So I would say that we need to encourage leadership as well, not only in the projects, management, technical positions, but as well in boards, because the decisions and the values and the vision, and of course the principles are top-down driven.
Absolutely. Brilliant. So with that, thank you so much, Maria. Everyone, round of applause for the fantastic Maria.
Thank you all.
Brilliant.